Awesome. Hi everyone, thanks for showing up on time. Sorry we're starting a little late. I'm sure people will trickle in. But thank you again for coming to today's calligraphy session. It's our first one for TAP. And Mr. Jung, who's been in Boston for quite a while, is going to be giving us an overview of calligraphy, the essential strokes, and giving us a demonstration. And at the end, we'll get to learn and actually practice what he's taught us. And so I'll hand this over to Mr. Jung.
Thank you. Should we wait? No? They're all coming in already? 1, 2, 3, 4.
I think people will come in, but we can get started.
People have things to do, so.
Okay. I'm really honored that you invite me to share with you my knowledge and my experience in the Chinese calligraphy. In general, people will only consider calligraphy is the management of the brush and paper and ink. But I want to introduce you to the earliest form of characters. And the Chinese characters, they help you to understand the development of, we call it Hanwen. It means the Han Dynasty's lettering. And so that is very different from, for instance, Cantonese is a spoken language, but Hanwen is a written language. There were two proven ancient Chinese characters. One is Jiaku Wen, in English is an oracle, and the other one is bronze. It's called bronze strip, the Jin Wen.
You were saying?
Yeah. Both of them are used simultaneously between 1500 BC and then 771 BC. I have included on your copy chronological, and you will see in Chinese that you will have to learn, and the dynasty's name is on the left vertical column, and the date and the event happening. And it was very interesting that we're talking about 1500 to 1000 years before Christ. That means we add 2000 to it. It's 3,500 years ago. So, well, the lettering and the writing in the beginnings are all pictures. So we were looking at the pictures on the top. That is oracle bones. The reason they call it oracle bones is because at first it was just the turtle shell. This is a turtle shell on the left. And animal bones also used by the king. And he will ask a series of questions by sketching on these bones, scratching with a sharp object. And then they put a real hot rod, a metal rod in there, and they crack the shell. And after the crack into whatever pattern, and then his priest, or so-called, will interpret the thing, because the king was asking his ancestor what will be happening. It can be weather, could be war, could be any question. So the answer interpret is written by the priest. So what you see is all those drawings, they're different words talking about the musicians. The different musicians, anything happen. Well, you look at that, you say, well, that doesn't look like Chinese. But I tell you, the Chinese government did the first scientific excavation in 1928 to 1936. And they dig up only in one area, one province only. And that province is Henan and Anningyuan. That was the old capital of it. The Shang dynasty. Shang dynasty is the one that I wrote it on the chart. The first one officially dating record. Before that, there's no official record. Well, when the excavation of that area, they've discovered 175 oracle bones, 175,000 oracle bones. 50,000 have the inscription in them, of which 4,000 are character similar to the Chinese writing. And then 1/3 they can identify it as a really Han already have that writing. So that is in the Shang dynasty. And then the next dynasty lasts for another 700 years. It's bronze. China went through Bronze Age, and it's very early in the world that people have weapon. They have weapon and then religious utensils and all kinds of things for preaching. And that's for 700 years. This is the kind of thing called a bronze. The Chinese call it just call it a Jinwen. It's not Jin, it's Tong. Actually, it's a Bronze Age, but they call it Jinwen. Now, they all done by sharp knife or sharp thing that cutting into the animal bone. But in this bronze, they're not. They're casting into the bronze. So it's an interesting thing that for history, in 1970, which is not too long ago, there was an excavation and they unearthed 5,000 bronze items, of which 2,000 have different words, different character in those 5,000 items. So they finally identified it and got it tested, and they said there's another 1,000 are names and religious symbols they don't know. So what happened is the carbon technique to identify the date, saying that those writings could be 4,800 years that I wrote down there, and it was really, or 1,800 years before Christ. So that's the type of character. If you're looking at it, sometimes you will see a dollar sign, something like that, show up. And later on, there's a lot of study comparing the two of the early history. And this is from a textbook that shows I'm just trying to see. The first part is here. It's the Oracle Bones language. And this is the Jinwen, which is the Bronze language. And now, because it's studied in today's, this is the thing called Xiaozuan. And that one is the today's writing up above. So they want to compare the shape of, for instance, this is water. In the early days, the water is like this, the same between the two languages. and then they start changing it, and then when you get to third, these 小篆, I'll show you. Using this one. First came 大篆. First 大篆 is a language. Yeah, I'll show you the change. 大篆 comes.
This is 大篆.
This 大篆 comes about much earlier. 大篆is yeah. It looks like this. You can roll it. But there's the action. This little boy is a boy, and then because he's handling something. So then they turn around and discover that the first language used in the Shang dynasty have followed a very simple five-step sequence. Number one is picture. Look like a picture. They draw pictures. They draw a picture of the sun. They draw a picture of the moon, and then the second stage is the meaning, and then they have finally, after the picture and after the meaning, and they borrow parts of the letter to make a new letter, such as like I take a radical of this, and then they will put it on another letter and then make a new letter. So make it easier for the future to look up a dictionary, and then you have what they call a radical is means which they sometimes is a heart, sometimes is a wood, and all kinds of, like for instance, this is about religious action, you know. And then finally they go by sound. Sound is very interesting. For instance, the word "qing," this thing doesn't write. Okay. They started out with a color, and then they will they create a word. For instance, speaking terms, it means inviting. But then if you write down here, this is feeling, in love or something like that. I mean, compared to the original word, they're using sound to add another two words, but this picture here is a radical. And that was created in Shang dynasty. Can you imagine that rule never changed? Up to now, some of the new short form shorthand letter created is still the same way. Go by either the sound, borrow part of the radical, and so on. Well, these two scripts were produced into a sharp object. Therefore, is way before the brushes involved. At the end of Zhou, which is the second dynasty, and you is BC 1000 to 771, and then there are already many countries. At the end of Zhou, it becomes 7 countries, and they call it the period of war before Qing dynasty. So the 7 is Qi, Zuo, Yan, Han, Zhao, Li, Chun. So all 7 countries were using about that many language and writing. But there are 3 important ones, because they lasted in the future a few thousand years, some of them. So the first one is the 大传 is this book. Look at the picture of it. You don't see it more like drawings. This word is a 子 儿子 boy, and this word is 大 because of the size of the human. And then when you get to body, they will add a left hand representing part of the body, and this word is resting under the wood or something. So this language turned into 小篆 means a smaller, and these are all carved in tombstones. Then they begin to be very regular, no stroke allowed to be thicker or thinner. Once you start, it's identical, and then they have a certain dimension that they would like to carve it in the stone. And this is from one of the Liu family's stone in China. Later on, they developed the stone rubbing, ink rubbing here, so that you only, where there's a hole in the stone, there will be no ink. And then that's how you print it. But that's way down for hundreds of years until they develop it, do it on book. Then there's I'll tell you later on what happened when they printed it in book. Well, the seven kingdoms, so to speak, were fighting, and Qin Shi Wang is the one that you probably learned in Chinese history, that he's the first emperor in 221 BC, only lasts 14 years. But he is absolutely ruthless. He will organize, after he defeated the other 6 countries, he, through his decision, he standardized one language, all measurements, all writing in one system, and the government and social system. And his prime minister is very capable, one called Li Si, and he picked the 小篆, this for national language of Hanwen. From then on, for 17 years, you can only use this officially, and history said he'll burn all the other books, the other 6 languages. And there's actually total 8 floating around. There's another small group have a language. Because he burned all the other, and then history also said he buried all the other scholars alive. We don't know how true that is, but we have to assume that that's the case. And the Qin dynasty lasts 14 years, but they followed by Han, which lasts 400 years. And the 400 years is, if you look at my chronological order, and you'll find the first one is strips of bamboo. And can I see the strips of bamboo? They discover writing, but they don't have instrument to write on. No, there's no book, no paper. They just cut bamboo into little long strips, and this one is not easy to read, but you will see the writing on it with some kind of an instrument, but not the standard brush yet. And this is the beginning of beginning of Han, Shihan. And now, don't forget, they can also write on silk. Something to deliver, they could write on silk. Very expensive, but they did it. So they eventually making things look like book. But it's folding in a row in a continuous piece of cloth. They write something on, and then they wrote it, and that's the kind of a communication they used at that time. Well, they come back with a thing called 小篆. The 小篆, I want to show you again, is because the 小篆lasted 17 years by Qin dynasty, and then the Han continued. But the people found it very clumsy to write a letter to your friend or to keep accounting for business. They find this is very clumsy, so they use actually, they actually use this called Li Su. Li Su is very different from the looking of that now. They start having a characteristic of this kind of stroke. The ending of that, and then you always get hooked. And then the letter gets more dimensions from this direction than this. And then you will find it. It's a beginning of the sufficient. The following is called Kai Su, but Li Su is used for a long, long time. And then someone who developed a thing called Chao Su, which is a shorthand of Li Su. Now, how is that related? This is a Chao Su. Chao Su is a shorthand of Li Su. Can you imagine some change? People writing of this thing like that for that time? Well, at the end of the Han Dynasty, which was 400 years later, the most significant thing is Cai Lin, who invented paper. That is unbelievable. Can you all of a sudden you have a paper you can write on? Of course, ink and brushes is coming following, and then also in 120 AD, the government published a book called 说文解字. That's a Mandarin pronunciation. That means talking about word and explaining the meaning of it. That book had 7,000 words. Well, we later learned that 3,000 words is all you need. College graduate will be considered literate, can read newspaper and all publication if 3,000 words is all you know. Remember, that is a very, later on I will show you a book published last 10 years of Chinese government, also printed with the newspaper, 3,000 word book. That means all the what you need to know on the short form catalog. Yeah. Well, after these two books are published, Hanwen, which is the Han dynasty's language, continued. And then that is the beginning with the invention of the paper, the beginning of calligraphy. Beginning of, I don't know what for. Well, thank you. Now we begin calligraphy, but actually you have two languages, two kind of writing already exist, Xiao Zhang and Li Su. But then we discovered that they're broadly defined by 5 different styles. Xiao Zhang is one style, already used a lot of time. Li Su is just beginning to become the one that for the Han. And then Cao Su, we just saw that is a short form. And then for some reason between that all the way to Jin Cao, there's a lot of distance. Kai Su come in and Xin Su come in. Kai Su's the here shows the 5 difference. Kai Su is this style. Li Su is a Han Dynasty. Xiao Zhang is this. You can see that the sun is on this side and the moon is on this side. You can see that the previous generation, they were just pictures. And this is Xing Su. This is the shorthand Cao Su. 5 of them, 5 type of writing become the calligraphy study. And then of all the things important at that time, books developed. They find that they can find a way. The books, they start out with paper in a form of wood board, and it's not like this. It's not like that in a book. It's more like this. Books are 2 pieces of wood, and then the paper is continuously go horizontal. Because of the stone cemetery, using this method, that you carve a word where there's no ink, they will show white. And they're using wood process, writing books like this. And this is Xing Su. Yeah, this is not the Cao Su. This is the 4th one down. Most of the people who write will use that now.
Watch your time.
Now let me show you. Kai Su. Yeah, Kai Su come in. Where? Kai Su developed with real influence for most of the people. And right now, today, if the block printing, the government all copy this, and everyone has a imaginary in a square, every character. So later on, when you do some exercise, you can try it. None of these things is continually, actually every stroke is separate. You have to stop. Once you have to have stroke or come down, and every stroke, whereas this Xin Su, the next one is a walking language, and they will tie together.
Xing Su. Xing Su. On the wall.
Yeah.
On the wall.
Oh yeah, here we are. You see this difference, by the way, this is one of a pair. Can I show you the other one? You have another one. Yeah. It's used to frame a door frame or something like that. Now these things are continuous strokes and joined together. Different from kaisu. Kaisu is absolutely every stroke has to be finished and not continuous. And these are continuous writing. That introducing a speed problem. How fast you write changes the character of the absorption of the water by the paper, and whether you have what we call a dry stroke or not. Dry stroke means no ink inside or something. So now you can see the change of gradual, more freer, a certain way that it's like writing a shorthand, but it's not as fast as the other one. But after the book is published, study 草书 is very easy. You have to just get a book and copy it. For instance, if you take this book, and then there will be people who will be studying, copying, and learning how to write the fast one. If you really analyze this, the kaisu, this is how formal that is. Every one of word is full of strokes that you cannot. Let me see. Can you see that?
Watch your time.
Okay. What? Can you imagine you have to sit down and write part of a essay or part of a publication? Every stroke is finished by itself, and now we're talking later on center of gravity when we get to writing.
Go on. Watch your time.
So this kind of publication is called 字帖. It means you can now buy it. That's what you do anyway. And then who's the name? And the most famous one is called Wang Xizhi. Well, his name, and he has his two other fellow with him, and it's called the three ultimate in Chinese writing. Now that describes the total of 5 styles of writing. How do you learn to write like that? So therefore it depends on the brush coming in. Well, how do people learn? I show you a method. Chinese publish, for instance, this is a dictionary. Consists of 2,600 words. Each word will have all the style of 5 different styles in it. And you take a book like that and find a word first and then copy it. So it's 3,600 years different word. You just stick one and then you can see. For instance, can you see now? Now, for instance, this word. When you look at the page, they show you a little figure, a number. It says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's the sequence that you have to write it. And then it becomes important. For instance, that this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then you want to know the earliest form of the language would be into here, picture. And then you will go to Xiao. And then Kai Su, this is Kai Su. And this is Chao Su. This is the same word. From here, it's that word in Chao Su. And then you have different artist names is published on it. So that makes it very easy to become a student of calligraphy.
Tell a story.
I would like to, before we start to look at the second sheet I gave you there, I would like to give you a little history of my learning of calligraphy, so that you will know what happened. Well, I was born in Hong Kong and spent about 4 years in Canada, not knowing a single word of Chinese. Well, parents sent me back to Hong Kong to have a Chinese education. So I enrolled in a traditional Chinese school, different from the modern Chinese school, when I was 6, and the school was established by 3 Qing dynasty scholars. And the most famous Southern China calligrapher is Chen Taichuo, is one of them, and he was part of the school. Well, the curriculum emphasized Chinese calligraphy, including that, and you have Chinese classic and so on. Well, the daily homework include writing Chinese calligraphy, required to about practice every night until a small bowl of ink is exhausted. It's a little tiny bowl, but you have to use up the whole thing and turn in paper next day. Well, that didn't last too long, because for a few years before the Japanese attacked Hong Kong, and the Hong Kong invasion by the Japanese stopped all the school. But somehow, after 6 months of chaos, I was able to chase and find one of the old teachers to teach me Xiao Kai, which is Kai Su, but little one. I cannot do it now. My eyes no longer can see that. The small size of thing that is in, like one of the paper that they have a 9 grit. I'll give you one later on. And the small one is about half an inch square. That means you cannot move the hand. You can move the finger. Keep the hand steady. You need that size, and writing the letters less than half an inch square. Well, that's 1941. And well, I studied for a while, and then I need to go to work at 15, so I stopped. And the war stopped at 1958. No, it's 1948. In August, yeah, 1948. So, no school, and no connection with my parents either, because I was left in Hong Kong alone when they went back to Canada. And then I decided to spend the time I enrolled in a Calligraphy Institute. Study all kinds of things, but my specialty is in Xiao Zhuan. The black thing. Yeah. I will show you one that I did the homework a little later.
This is
Can you see it? This is what I got at home. That's a homework. Every stroke has to be the same width. And then you have to learn to use the brush to do it now, because the brush is the only you can use it for calligraphy. That means you have to bend forward and reverse, and then bending backward to get the round end of every stroke. Has to have a round end of each stroke, and all the same size. Vertically, each character has a gravity, center of gravity. As if you take this character out, if you pick the center of gravity, it would perfectly floating, will not tilt. That means you have to know where the center of gravity of each word. And that training lasted a year. And then I went back to English school to study, and then I get to Canada again. Well,
1948. 48.
yeah, 1948. In August, the war ended, and I didn't go to
You won the prize.
Canada until 1949. Yeah.
You won the first prize.
Well, in the meantime, I was in a British school, and I entered a competition for the Hong Kong high school calligraphy, and luckily I was awarded the first prize for Hong Kong students, a high school calligrapher. Well, but after that, when I came, there'll be a lot of things. I show you what the thing is. Oh, this is one. This is one of Sing Jung. That's a stage after Kai Su's. That means you are freer to connect two strokes by one, and then connect even, but not as fast as the grass strip. 草书can even connect all the words together. 草书 is yeah, I have one. 草书.
You say, what do you call this again?
行书. That's walking. not running. Yeah. And that is 草书.
This is how.
Yeah, that's not my work. This is what
Yeah, but this is your work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is
It's slower, but it's connecting speed. Not every stroke has to be the same, like the Kai Su. Kai Su is really something. And this is Xiao Zhuan. That I did the homework for that. And that was one that the teacher rejected. He said, but I did another one. One thing is that when you start writing, you cannot stop. You cannot say take 5 minutes out and come back. You lose the continuity. So when you look at the Xiao Zhuan, the previous one, you cannot stop. Once you start, you got to finish that. Can you imagine I have to turn in one twice as much as this much? And the school kept it. But when you start here, you cannot say I come back 10 minutes later on and do this. You have to continuously write it all the way to the end. Different from other kinds of writing. Oh,
Your design.
let me just give you some more
What this what you
examples.
did.
Over there.
On there on the board.
Oh, you cannot. Oh, this is after I got to Boston, and the Chinese school system want to publish a book called 中华民化 Chinese Culture. So they came to me and then asked whether I can design using the old Chinese language for the book cover. And these four are originally in the 5,000 years period. If you write it, Chinese 中华文化 is a culture. And after that, I started playing around with 草书. 草书, this is the five word here. 花落知多少. And then 草书allowed that. How do we do this? Because I was saying speed of moving the hand got to be affecting something. So I was at MIT for a graduate student in the photographic lab. Allow me to go in there with a pen light and a photographic paper and expose it. How fast can you move so that you don't lose the continuity? And finally, I discovered a secret. One 草书, one word. If you slow down here too long, then it becomes a blob of light because the thing exposed. So you have to now this is the training of the circle that I learned from this Institute of Calligraphy. You have to practice draw circles so that you can get this line. Cannot stop. If you stop, there will be a blob of light coming in the dark room. So you just try the speed of 草书, so that will expose after the negative. And then in 1967, Expo 67, I was commissioned to design an essay in using calligraphy stroke to explain urbanization. So you can just see these are the strokes that you learn from calligraphy, and then you just try to tell a story. What human being, when they collect together, move together, and activity, and how do you create a society? And this one is a man and woman. They're actually based on 小篆 in a sense. So that one was produced into slide many stations in the Expo Montreal. Then you can just press a button and you can see it goes explaining people. But this is a very interesting one. And that's a symbol of the house where they live. And that is certain apartment design and different orientation. It's just using the stroke and the pen and the design of spacing between stroke. Yeah. Now, for the last one, I don't have it here. It was just before I retired from my architectural practice. I was asked to design the Ming furniture exhibit in the Museum of Fine Art. The Museum of Fine Art won an introduction. On the glass panel, they go in, and each character, I did 4 characters. Each character is this wide and this big. And they etch in glass, and finished? No. They etch in glass, and maybe still on. Originally, it was only 1 year show, but it's the Ming furniture show it's over 10 years now. I haven't been in there, but I think you will see the Xiao Zhuan is used for 4 letters. 平具雅气 or something like that. Yeah, that's the general training that I have, and now I left on top of your. Let me just check my time. 2 o'clock. Okay. I left 4 sheets there, including. No. You all have one. The 10 exercise I want you to do. You see the 10 exercise? No, don't need to. Oh, this is the.
Behind.
You see this important thing that 2 finger here, and some style is 3 finger here, and I think that depends on whether you are writing small or writing large one. And then the 10 down below it, you have a page like that.
Yeah, put it on here.
Yeah. You should practice this with your pen, and then you produce. This shows you for instance, every word has. Later on, you'll find that all character has this stroke in Kai Su. Now, because we are not studying etymology, there will be different channel of learning calligraphy. The reason is, let me see, what happened here?
What you looking
I'm looking for the scroll. Calligraphy in reverse is the seal, the Xiao Zhuan. But people used to carve a seal. And now people are using the seal lettering to become an art is by itself. So therefore, for instance, every word inside here is the 小篆, and there's about 6 panels of this size. I can put it up here. You can see it later. So why is seal so important in the calligraphy? Because people used to be signing a name, but that's not acceptable. You have to have a personal stamp for a long, long time. In the last, I would say, from Ming to Qing dynasty, wedding certificate is require you to have your seal. So each one of this, sometimes here is a 6-letter in the style of a 小篆. One thing you've got to remember, that word is reversed. It's not the same as you're writing the same word, because when you print it on, you have to look at it this way. So therefore, he has to write a word reverse order. If the left side will be right side. There's another language people have to study in order to become a seal maker.
Go on to writing.
Okay. From the 10, let me just show you the 10.
To open the pen. How do you open the pen?
Okay, now you're supposed to get a pen. Don't open the pen more than 1/3. In other words, when you wet it, bend it and make sure you loosen it. The reason you need 2/3 to have the spring coming back. Otherwise, the thing won't come back if you open it all up. You're depending on the strength of the 2/3 of the pen, the white part, and you can see that I just used one that only 1/3 down. So then you can have width up to about 1/4 of an inch if you want. So remember the opening. Okay, let me just check on this thing for you. You have they all have one copy, right?
Yes.
And after you practice it, I'll show you practice if you want. I will give you this. Each one have one page of this. I want you to write the one down below exactly the same word of this. I think after you do a practice, and I think you can try it. I think it's more than 15 pages here.
Don't pass it up.
Can you pass it around? I want to mention what are the important in the writing.
This is what you give them.
Yeah, okay.
就要开始写了，那个往上来。
After the 10 exercise, the second page I gave you also contained one of the words very important to write. Is the word Jung. Every diagonal stroke is included in this. The third one. That's the one that you got to practice. And I'm just trying to see, because your organization is Taiwan, 美国 professional, so 中国美国的 person. So you have the word you use. I don't know what is the Chinese name, your organization.
It doesn't make sense. Mr. Jung, do you want us to practice first on the paper, and then, or do you want us to do a demonstration on how they actually hold the pen and strokes?
Well, I think you do the practice. I'll come around and see whether you're doing the right thing or not. Do the 10 practice first. Then if I have to show you first how to do it.
I think you do some first.
Yeah, okay. Let's do the. Okay, let's do the 10.
Maybe you can.
They're giving me one of your pens, so I'm going to use it. Where's the pen gone? Huh?
He will just show you the pen.
See, I have the pen
Pen
here.
Here. You want people to come around you to watch you?
No,
Yes.
I
Can we
think
put the camera on there? I can put that camera.
Sorry.
Oh, you got
No,
it.
I got, yeah. Sorry.
Maybe we can put the camera over on here. Maybe project it, yeah, that's on top. You can put the camera on here.
Yeah.
And then project it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it got long?
Just practice paper. Over a little bit. Slide over.
You turn on the light and you're brighter.
You want to be a bit brighter?
And brighter?
Yeah.
You got ink?
Yeah, this is ink. Ah. Two finger in this side. Open it 1/3. And then the first one, you see, is almost like an L sideways, and then I have to adjust it lower because the size of the thing it doesn't require. If you lift up the thing, then you have to do it very large. So now you see, you put down. And then you continue. And then the second one, you have to do you have to get some ink sometime. Now this time is you pull it up sideways. And this one, you go like this. The fourth one, you have to see it out, you have to go down. The fifth one is up here. And then you learn to use this one. This one is used all the time. Slow down on that, otherwise you won't get that shape. And then we have the diagonal this way. Over here. You go down like that. And then you go See, round end, you just don't drag it out. Now this is the horizontal one coming up. Now let it slow down a little bit. See, you get it. You hold it there, and then it will add. Now that's easy. The one is the sometimes it's thinking easy, but it's not. Pull it up, and then you will have all that thing. So when you go to the next page, whenever you have a word to 永字的 for instance, that one is. Do I have a second page? I think I gave you a second page, right? Yeah. I will 永字那个. Don't you have the extra one?
And I have this one too.
You have extra. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to write that one. Now, you see this is 楷书 fundamental. This is called 楷书 正楷. Then when you have to 永字, huh? And up here, down here, down here, and come down here. The ink is too thin, a little bit, so the paper will actually getting a wider one. If you have thicker ink, that means you have to grind it longer. Because if it's too thin, it doesn't. If you can bring it up, you can see that there's a whole line hanging there. Then it will not spread. For instance, this thing is got bigger than the originally contact of the paper. Or else I took it too long. If I shorten 1/10 of a second, then it would be smaller. So that's all you have to learn, how to adjust time, pressure, center of gravity. This word is perfect in line like that. But you have to, if you have to write a letter, continue, have 4 vertical ones, then you have to make sure that the next one is lining up with this side. The paper did not absorb all of it. Look at this. You see here. You got the same?
Prettier.
You put it under the camera.
Where's the camera?
Right there.
Right there, teacher.
Behind you.
Perfect. You can see right behind you.
Behind you.
Oh, okay. Now I want you to try that 10. So see how many.
Would you demonstrate?
I'm going to come
Would
around.
you demonstrate how you
Before
write
guys
that?
get started practicing.
Just demonstrate how you write that.
Just to wash off your brush, but I think the brushes, they're all new, but they're all on the harder side, so you can just apply it first and then squeeze out that extra water and then dip it into.
Wait, what do we do with the water?
Use it to loosen the brush.
So the next one,
If you want to drink water, you can.
Yeah, not as good anymore.
and then just squeeze out the extra water.
See, I should be up a little bit before I come down. That's not so easy. Even a dark room do better than this. No, I should be. Where is it? 中国. Let me just see what you guys are doing.
Use that hand to open it.
Could you talk a little bit more about how you're holding the brush?
Yeah,
The actual
Take water.
sorry.
You get a water. Yeah, you just to dip it into water up to 1/3, and then slowly use a finger to open it. Yeah.
You need water.